Just listen to me.
I tell you.
Don't say a word. 'Cause I'll be going tomorrow with my placard in the woman's mask and my Vincent flag. I will be flying it high for the women and the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Nice.
So I'll be in that mask tomorrow, Margaret. So look out for me. Don't say not
No.
Just hang up.
Nice.
Love you, honey.
I love you too, sweetheart. Yes, man. Do what you have to do. Do what you have to do. So now, folks, there was a lot of chatter. And everybody have this and that to say about the trade unions. Good afternoon, Newtimes.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. You know, I've been following your program and just listening to you playing those excerpts, extracts, whatever. I just it just tells me how this kind of country is full of traitors, a lot of traitors on board, a lot of deceivers, a lot of hypocrites. How do you get rid of them? How do you deal with these people, boy? Because the trend continues. And I love how your mentor or your teacher, you know, you're giving him so much airplay for him to tell you how to deal with your comrade leader. Isn't that amazing?
Really, really amazing.
What position does he hold now?
Really, Dave, why you ask? Well, at least it's a rhetorical question. You don't expect an answer, right?
I love to hear you answer, you know. That's why.
No.
Huh?
No.
But this whole thing is so, I don't know, I'm running out of lyrics like I said yesterday. I'm running out.
Oh, you're running out of lyrics?
Yeah, I'm running out of lyrics, boy.
Very sorry to hear that.
These people are so amazing. There could be no other country in the world than St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Because Dave,
boy.
they say our parliamentary system is taken like it's a child of the Westminster system, right?
Yeah, it is.
All right. They had a motion of confidence in England this week. Went to the debate. No one amended it. Something has to be wrong here.
Remember our Speaker of the House, you know, he's all confused. You know, you follow his column?
No, watch me. When I heard people reading it, you realize I didn't even make reference to it?
I read it, yep. I read it about, you know.
The Bible said, what the Bible said, let me ask you a question, okay? You love to ask a lot of questions. What the Bible say about a double-minded person?
Oh, you know, I'm a student of the Bible.
I ask you a question.
Yeah?
What does the Bible say about a double-minded man?
Margaret, you're actually the wrong person, you know.
All right. Well, Mackenzie go answer for you. Mr. Mackenzie, I never asked if you could be a Christian.
Okay, go ahead.
I said what the Bible said. If you don't know, you don't know. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Have a wonderful day.
Is a razor blade, I would say?
Oh,
a razor
my
blade.
God.
All right.
Okay,
have a good day.
You too, my dear. Daisy. I'm reading his article. Not me. I have time with that. So, folks, they had all things to say. They say how they don't have the interests of the members at heart and how they are disrespectful and how the president of the Public Service Union is a bad worker. And how he wanted promotion. And he called for the SAM. And then Han said that that actions have consequences. That is a fact. That is a fact, Hans. Actions have consequences. And then the bad man on radio asking where the money will come from to pay more than 1%. Well, I answered him on Wednesday night. You're going to get money for port, you're going to get money for road, you're going to get money to build this and build that, get money for this too. So don't ask any foolish questions about where the money will come from. And then Hans said how the trade unionists are political. That could be a fact. Because for sure, Noel Jackson and Bonds Bonadi are the political activists. They are the ones.
What you have is a bunch of political activists,
yes, like Bonds and
heading
Noel.
the trade unions.
Bonds and Noel.
Those three trade unions in this country at this time.
And you leave out Bonds and Noel.
Persons who are not interested in the cause of their members, but have a personal political agenda.
What is your personal political agenda, Hans?
I have my own personal pension plan that I pay for 100%, me alone. I got gratuity on my first couple of contracts.
You hear that? Personal agenda. You hear his own?
But
his contract.
there is no, not even a law, but there's something, I don't know what to call it, that is being followed, whereby persons like me, if you get it for your first 3 contracts.
You hear that?
Either your first 3 contracts of 2 years,
Listen.
or 2 contracts of 3 years. And that's it. You ain't getting no more gratuity as part of the contract.
But he's getting.
But the point is, I have a contract with the government.
All right.
I have a job I am doing.
Right.
You understand?
What's the name of the job?
And it has nothing to do with you saying I can't criticize the government. That's not my job.
What's the
No.
job title?
Your
What's the name
job
of the
is to
job?
praise the
I
government.
am in charge of workers' education for the Workers' Institute. I am running programs.
Where is the Workers' Institute?
I'm running programs.
Where is the
My
Workers'
office
Institute?
is at Union House.
Where is the Workers'
My
Institute?
office is at Union House.
Man, I ask you, where is the Workers' Institute? You mean to say the Workers' Institute is in Union House?
No, the office. My office is there.
But where is the institute?
Well, which institute? Which
The Workers'
Institute is the organization, my friend.
But where is that?
I am running programs. I am doing programs. I am talking to workers. I am trying to uplift people. That is what my job is, my principal job. And I am a
Well,
radio
could you send me some copies of lectures that you gave?
I give lectures all the time.
But that's what I'm saying. I never heard about them.
Well, I mean,
And
you never heard
if
about
you do,
them.
you must have
Well, you've never heard about them.
No.
Let me
As a
tell
matter
you.
of fact, I don't even know. I don't even know if you have an office.
Well,
Serious.
I'm telling you. But let me tell
Okay.
you something.
So there's a big sign down there.
You know how many people that sit exams that I lecture to, who doing exams at the university center?
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with government.
I ask you a question.
But that has nothing to do with the government and your salary. If you
it has to do
lecture,
with what I do.
if you lecture at the university,
No,
you should be
I'm
paid by the
saying I lecture at
university.
the university.
Cummins lecture too.
I am saying they come to me. And that's what I'm doing. I go down to Barley. I run programs for Marlon Stevenson. You understand? With people who try to uplift people.
So who paid you that? So you are paid by government for that? To do a lecture for Marlon? Because you did a lecture on behalf of Marlon, you are paid by government?
The point here, I run programs, but they don't.
But the point is you run program and who you run for should pay you.
No, sir. No, sir.
Not government?
No, sir. You could always say that.
Not government, man.
No, sir.
So the government will pay you to do a program for Marlon Stevenson?
Because not Marlon alone.
Or other.
Whoever.
So if I want you to do a program for me, you have to say that the government must pay
You
you?
just call me.
And the government will pay you?
I get my salary. You call me.
And you doing it for me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go try
For
that.
you and your people who working with you.
All right.
That is what I do.
How often you do
You
it?
understand? That is what I do.
How often you do it?
As often as requested.
All right.
As often as requested.
It's not a daily business.
No, it's not a daily thing.
So you could do.
I work a program, and I submit my program and see what I intend to do, how I intend to go about doing what I do, and I do that all the time.
So you could do one program in 3 months and still get paid.
Well, you see, you want to make it sound ridiculous.
Man, that's why you're saying you got no time. You ain't got no time for that. Oh, you got time for program and you're on radio every day?
Every day on
well,
radio.
You see, that's the whole point.
Every day
That's
on
what
radio.
hurting you.
Hot in here? The hot in here? Wait, I have one here now for the other one. The other fella, right? Let me see where that day. we coming up here now. We have clips here. So I will tell Hans now who is political and why they have to be political. Right? We will tell you why they have to be political. These people, can't let them get away. Can't let them get away. They won't get away.
A whole bunch of them gone from NCB, and some of them still there now with noose around their neck.
Yes.
So they got to sing, otherwise what? Just like he told me, if a certain fella don't behave himself, what son? I'll tell you his name. That's like he told me if Noel Jackson didn't behave himself, he gonna sick ballers and matter deal on him. It's the same way, if that fella don't behave himself, they're going to put a rope in him. Hey, pull in the rope, man. Pull in the rope. I got the tapes here, Mom.
Yes.
We got the tapes.
Nice.
Don't argue with that.
Nice.
All right.
Don't argue with that.
you all trembling in all your boots. NDP and Tatas? Well, the whole thing is coming home. It's coming undone.
Wait, let me go back
I
to
told you. A whole bunch of them gone from NCB, and some of them still there now with noose around their neck. So they got to sing, otherwise what?
From the
just like he told me, if a certain fella don't behave himself, what son? I'll tell you his name. Last like he told me if Noel Jackson didn't behave himself, he gonna sick ballers and matter deal.
Nice. So that's it, right? Now, folks, during the roadblock, the Prime Minister then asked the redhead clown, Audrey, what name? Scott, Giles, Jackson, and all them names. And they could talk about how many times K married. Talk about she. But she, as president of the Nurses Association, when Eustace asked her how much percent the nurses wanted, you know what percent she said, Bing? You know what the percentage she said? 0%. All she wanted was for Eustace to go. Was that political or not? What was that? Playing games or playing politics? Playing games or playing politics. She didn't want pension for nursing assistants. No concern about about working conditions of nurses. No. She wanted, the only thing she wanted was politics. Wanted Eustace to go. So folks, they say they're upset now, upset they are, very upset that the unions met with Dr. Friday. They are very upset. I'm going to be reading some pieces of correspondences here, and then I will take photographs of them because they were loaned to me this morning. I will take photographs of them and return them to their owner. They're upset, you know. Upset that the trade unions, I don't know if the police was there, or the Police Welfare Association president, I'm not too sure, met with Mr. Eustace. Folks, let us start. 1996. Unity Labour Party, Bay Street, Kingston, P.O. Box 1491. Telephone number, I could write down this because I don't know if this was a Vincentian number. But telephone, folks, I'll write this down, give me. Because this is from 1996 and you go tell me what area code this was at the time. Telephone 809 457 2761. That was the telephone number. And the fax number was the same, 809-457-2761. To all non-governmental organizations / social partners. From the chairman of the Unity Labour Party, subject demonstration and rally on March the 7th, 1996. The Unity Labour Party will be holding a candlelight demonstration from Sand Hill to Kingston Unity Square on Thursday, March the 7th, 1996. We are inviting the demonstrators to assemble at Sand Hill at 7 p.m. The march will start about 5:30 p.m. or thereabouts. At Unity Square, there will be a rally at the end of the march / demonstration. The central demand of the demonstration is the resignation of the new Democratic Party government and the calling of general elections shortly after. The unbearable multiple crises facing this country as a consequence of the NDP's misrule have brought the ULP to this juncture. Every crisis represents a moment for and of change. Accordingly, the ULP is inviting all non-governmental organizations / social partners to mobilize their members and supporters to join our party in this momentous venture. Should you require more information about the ULP's plans regarding the demonstration and rally, please feel free to contact us directly in person or by way of telephone. Please respond to this call. Sincerely yours, Louis Straker. Folks, that was 1996. 1996. We turn now to 1999. The Unity Labour Party, Beachmont, P.O. Box 1491, Kingston, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Telephone number changed now. Oh, the area code maybe was different at the time. Maybe Lime had a different area code. Anyhow, this is it, right? Telephone 784-457-2761 because it's the same thing there. Oh, the code is different, right? Okay. October the 21st, 1999. The President, Nurses Association, Kingston, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Dear Sir, Madam, I am formally requesting a meeting with your organization to discuss our party's philosophy, policies, programs, and vision as we confront the challenges and demands of the onrushing new century. I would very much like to listen firsthand to your organization ideas for the way forward. Let us arrange on the telephone as soon as possible. Let us arrange on the telephone as soon as possible a convenient time and place for such a meeting, if you consider it necessary and desirable. Sincerely yours, the boy for smiles. That was October the 21st, 1999. We turn now to February the 7th, 2000. Unity Labour Party, Beachmont, P.O. Box 1491, Kingston, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. To the churches, trade unions, businesses business houses and organizations, service clubs, youth and women's group, community-based organization, NGOs, the media houses, and the general public. From the political leader of the Unity Labour Party and the leader of the opposition. Oh, no, we could leave out this one. But folks, this one doesn't have to do with this one had to do with National Heroes Day, right? This one doesn't have to do with inviting them to a meeting. But folks, here it is. That in 1999, Fordy Sam was inviting the nurses and the Public Service Union to meet with him, and they met. But now, it isn't okay for them to meet with Dr. Friday. Sometimes, get well sick, get well card, get well soon card. Can't help right now. People at the hospital, so weak, can't even defend their own selves. Now, folks, I'm being told that the area code 809 is in the Dominican Republic. The area code is in the Dominican Republic. Okay. 809. So, I guess that is why recently we were told about man coming from the Dominican Republic to assassinate. Who? But that is how it is in this country, folks. Let us take this break because we should be having a guest soon. So let us take the other break.
CK Grace and Company is the number one supermarket. 100% concession.
Hello, Newtimes. Good afternoon. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Ay, ay, ay. Well, boy, the way I see my country daily getting worse. I said because God done is something mysterious. Yes, but don't care who you blame, who you ask, nobody knows why. Some refuse to speak, while others blatantly deny. But this my good friend who's a doctor told me he explained. It's a terrible disease which attacks and destroys the brain. Spreading like wildfire through this country, infecting more and more here daily. There's never been a disease worse than this epidemic called gunsitis. All them people who murdering here with guns daily. Most for drugs they claim it's gunsitis infect the brain.
Okay, folks. On the hearing of that song, you should know that we are back in the house and we have our guests with us. So let us go right to that. Happy New Year to you, Kay, and good afternoon.
Happy New Year, Margaret. Happy New Year to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and in particular, my beloved people of West St. George. Greetings, blessings, and may this year, 2019, bring you all the peace and prosperity that you deserve.
Okay. Well, happy to have you with us.
Good to be back here,
Is it
Margaret.
first for the new year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, before you came, I dealt with a few issues like the mole at the hospital. You know, there was a motion of no confidence in the United Kingdom against Theresa May.
Yes.
Well, she survived, right? But I must say to you, though, that for all of the motions of no confidence that we had during our absence, with your absence in the St. Kitts had, Guyana had, now the United Kingdom, there is 3. None were amended to a motion of confidence. Right? Two turned out to be motions of confidence, vote of confidence after the debate. After the debate. No amendment. No amendment, right? But one failed.
I hope the Speaker, Jomo Thomas, is taking note about all of that, and all those who gave some sort of legal opinion that it was possible to turn and to rape our Constitution by turning it into a vote of confidence. I hope they're taking note of how erroneous their position is.
So that is what we dealt with. I also touched on the issue of the unions and the Police Welfare Association being denied entry to a meeting on negotiations. They say the issue of the cell phone had to do with national security and confidentiality. And then on radio now we're hearing all sort of breaches in confidentiality, because if you and I have a private conversation, now you're hearing back now, oh, Mr. Boucher wanted promotion and he called me and this and that.
But they are the masters of breaches of confidentiality.
I'm telling you.
Those who are raising those issues.
Is he also hypocritical?
They are the masters, but that has been the MO, the modus operandi of this government. They are filled with contradictions and hypocritical stances. And I say this especially because today I want to look, Margaret, a little bit at the Public Service Union case against the Public Service Commission, which has a number of persons who have commented on recently. But I want to look at it especially in relation to the failure of this government, the gross failure, and what a devastating indictment this case is to the way the ULP has been running the civil service. Now, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines employs over 5,000 persons, Margaret, and they are the biggest employers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And this is the core of the existence of most persons in St. Vincent, their jobs that they hold as civil servants. And when a High Court judge can give such a damning, devastating judgment against the way the civil service is being run, it tells you that once again we see how clearly the ULP has failed its citizens, failed to do what is right. I want to refer to paragraph 163. This judgment by Justice Henry, very long judgment, and it's actually about 223 paragraphs. But I want to read from paragraph 163 as an introduction before I deal with the case as such. And it says, Court in Lalo, the Public Service and the Public Service Commissions at page 161, the PSU, and this is a case that I'm reading from a case what Justice Henry referred to in her judgment. What could be the consequences of not promoting persons as they're supposed to be promoted? The case said, promotion provides a positive incentive and a stimulus to an employee to aspire to greater heights in his chosen field. When it fails to materialize, it leads to apathy, frustration, demotivation, dissatisfaction, low morale, and dysfunctionalism. This is particularly so when juniors are pitchforked over their seniors without being given any reason for such action. Of Officers who are repeatedly overlooked for promotion develop a sense of rejection and become demotivated. Moreover, it would be unreasonable in the absence of reasons for those bypassed for promotion to conclude that promotion is based not on merit but on some other factor. This is what the learned judge said, and Justice Henry thought that it was important to quote this. And I say it to show, is it any wonder that our civil service is in a shamble, that I'm sure the poor civil servants are doing the best they can to function under an atmosphere like this. But the lords are saying that it leads to dysfunctionalism, low morale, dissatisfaction, demotivation. And it would be reasonable to conclude that they're not getting promotion because of some other factor. And we have to conclude, when we read this judgment by Justice Henry, that this some other factor is nepotism, favoritism, and partyism. It has to be that the persons who have been overlooked consistently, not promoted when they're supposed to, it has to be for political reasons. And when you examine the whole of this case, you can come to no other conclusion but a deliberate, and the judge said so, it's a deliberate attempt to ignore the civil service regulations, the
constitutional regulations
from the Public Service Commission. The rules, a deliberate attempt to ignore it, and that is what has led to a judgment, a biting indictment on our civil service. So I just want to use this to give encouragement to all the civil servants out there who feel that they have been overlooked. And I want to thank the Public Service Union and those 5 brave public servants who dared to bring this action before the court. Because the defendants, they tried to say that the court has no locus standi to hear this matter, that they must come to them, that the claimant should have come to the public service to get permission to bring the action. Do you think permission would have been granted?
Exactly.
And the way in which they handled this matter, where they totally ignored a court order which ordered them to give certain disclosure, because they had been saying to the court, they misled the court, and I could only say it was willful. And it is very sad when our own Attorney General, the Honorable John D. Martin, who was more or less the lead counsel in this matter, where you have an order made by the court for disclosure, where you're telling the court that, we have been keeping the proper regulations, we have been following the regulations, we have been doing annual reports, we have been making the necessary seniority lists, we have been advertising vacancies according to the law. And when you're ordered to produce documents to prove it, you do nothing. And then you swear, you get Kezron Walters or someone, I think it is him, to swear an affidavit that these are so old and it is so difficult to get the records. Which the court had to say, again, that it was not true, and it had to be a willful neglect of the order. Because even in some of the evidence given by Blazer Williams, we see that the failure to produce these records had to have been deliberate. I want to refer to the judge's finding in relation to Blazer Williams in particular. You see, I listened to Dr. Gonsalves on Extreme Radio a couple of days ago. And it appears that persons have been calling for the removal of the chairman of the Public Service Commission, and indeed I would say for the entire board, because it's obvious based on this judgment that they have not been doing what they're supposed to do. Dr. Gonsalves on radio says that, I cannot remove them because the Constitution says XYZ, which I will go into in a while and explain to you what the Constitution says. And why I don't agree with Dr. Gonsalves is what he's saying in his cavalier way of dismissing what this case has said. But Justice Henry, in her judgment, referred to Justice Blazer Williams, who has been the chairman of this Public Service Commission for the entire existence of the ULP's life, leading this country. From since 2001, Blazer Williams has been the chairman of this committee. And this is what she says at paragraph 20, I think it is paragraph 22. Blazer claims that he has been the chairman. Let's see if it's paragraph 22. Yes, this is what he says in his affidavit. I have been the chairman of the Public Service Commission since April 2001.
22?
I have been the chairman of the Public Service Commission since April 2001. Paragraph 22, yes. I am very familiar with the public service regulations.
Natural.
He's a lawyer. He must be familiar. He's a lawyer, a qualified lawyer. He had been practicing before. He has been in charge from since 2001. So he's very familiar. This is what he swears to. And then I will show you what the public regulations say. And if he's very familiar with it and he has not been making sure that they're kept, what other conclusion can the country draw? He says persons seeking to bring an action, as the claimant has proceeded to do, must do so with the requisite permission. So he's very familiar with the public service regulations, but he's familiar with it to see if he could block the case, so that they must seek permission from the civil service orders, civil service commission. Yes, before they can bring the case. Now, at paragraph, I just want to refer to also to paragraph 97, Margaret, of the same judgment for Justice Henry, what she says in relation to Blazer Williams. She says, Mr. Williams's testimony at the trial demonstrated that he understood what was required to effect compliance with the maintenance of seniority lists under Regulation 20. He maintained that as stipulated by Regulations 20 and 19, seniority was a factor that the PSC took into account in respect of promotions within the civil service. He averred that this was also done in respect of promotions to offices to which Messrs. Peters, Poyer, Boucher, Daniel, and Llewellyn were eligible, and about which the PSU has complained in the instant claim. I say this to show that he cannot say that he did not know what the civil service regulations say, because he has sworn on oath that he is very familiar with it. And even on the cross-examination, he has shown that he knows exactly what the civil service regulations say should be done. So the issue must be why for all these years they have not complied with what the regulations say. And just to put this in perspective, I am going to detail what the regulations say. Before I do that though, for those listeners who do not really understand what the case is about, I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs to explain what this whole case was about. In this case, the PSU, that is a public service union, the union that is appointed to look after the rights of its members, civil servants, has failed. So the Public Service Union complains in this case that the Public Service Commission has failed to comply with 3 of the regulations governing promotions within the service. It charged that in the discharge of its functions relative to promotion under Regulation 19, the PSC has acted without due regard to the principles of fairness, transparency, and objectivity as the regulations require, and that there have been unreasonable delays and inconsistencies in the process. And it says, therefore, the process is unlawful. They highlighted the experience of 5 public officers, and you know the named public officers, but this is not so important because it is not just the experience of those 5 public officers, it's the experience of many, many civil servants who have not been promoted. and in accordance with the principles of the public service rules. Okay, so the issues for the court to decide were whether the Public Service Commission has failed to comply with the procedures as outlined in Regulations 15, 19, and 20, which governs them, and whether the public service has failed to observe principles of fairness, transparency, objectivity in the exercise of its functions under Regulation 19, and what type of relief should be awarded to the PSU. So let me say now, what are the regulations that we are referring to in the Public Service Commission? They are to be found in the back of the Constitution. The Public Service Commissions, the Public Service Regulations, which were made under the Constitution. Okay, and actually those regulations are repeated in the judgment of Justice Henry. So we don't have to go far to look for them. She actually repeats them in her judgment. No steps be taken. Okay, before we get to that, I just want to refer you to, let me just look for the provision. Reporting vacancies. It states, okay. Regulation 15. Margaret, let's look at paragraph 45. Okay?
In the case?
In the case, yes, because this is taken straight from the regulations. Regulations 45, which says, and this is about reporting vacancies. When a vacancy occurs, or it is known that a vacancy will occur in any public office, in any department or ministry, the permanent secretary shall report the fact to the commission, and if the permanent secretary recommends that the vacancy should be filled by the appointment or promotion of an officer serving in that department or ministry, he will inform the commission. And if the promotion of that officer would involve the suppression of any more senior, the supersession of any more senior officers in the ministry, he will also state the reasons for that. And if the permanent secretary is unable to recommend the promotion of a serving officer, he will inform the commission of the names of the most senior officers in the particular grade, etc. And then if the permanent secretary recommends that applications to fill the vacancy should be invited from serving officers or from both serving officers and the general public, he will attach to his report a draft advertisement setting out the details of the vacant post and its duties and the qualifications for appointment. Now, this is only as regards reporting of vacancies, and it is detailed in the way you should deal with vacancies. You don't just go and discuss it with a politician and you skip over someone. You have to deal with seniority. And later on you would find that the judge found that they did not maintain the seniority list that they were supposed to maintain. How then can you promote persons if you don't have the proper list, which the law says you should maintain in order to deal with seniority? Now, there's also Regulation 18, which deals with advertisement of vacancies, and it says, the chief postal officer shall, when so directed by the commission, by circular or by publication in the Gazette, give notice of vacancies, and any other officer may make application in the prescribed form for appointment to such a vacancy. In other words, this regulation, and it's a long regulation with sub-regulations and so, lays out exactly what you should do to fill vacancies by advertising them in the Gazette, or so that it will be open, transparent, and persons who are eligible can apply. This was not complied with. Sub-regulation 1, according to the court, imposes a duty on the chief personal officer to give notice of vacancies when he is directed to do so by the PSC. It implies that the PSC must advertise vacancies within the public service by circular or publication in the Gazette. So In this case, it was found, first of all, that they were not filling vacancies in the right way. They were not advertising vacancies. They were not given the list of seniority so that you would know who are the senior persons. That was found as an absolute fact. How then can you be giving promotions in the civil service if you are not complying with these rules? The main one, there's Regulation 20, which deals with the seniority list. That is paragraph 77, Margaret.
Yes, I have that.
And it just says that mainly that you should have a list of seniority so that if you're going to do, and it tells you, let me just read the part because it tells you how you decide on seniority. The chief personal officer shall keep up-to-date seniority list of all officers holding offices in the several grades of the public service, and from time to time shall provide the Commission with copies of such lists. The seniority of an officer shall be determined by the date of his appointment to the particular grade within the range in which he is serving. The seniority of officers promoted to the same grade on the same date shall be determined by their seniority in their former grade. And 3, the seniority of officers who resign voluntarily from the public service and is subsequently reappointed shall be determined by the date of his reappointment. So the regulations tell you clearly what you should do in order to, so that you know who are the senior persons that you need to appoint to the various offices. And as I said before, Blazer Williams, who has been the long-standing chairman, says that he is quite au fait with these rules and that he understands them. Okay? The next one is Regulation 19. Paragraph 102. Regulation 19 deals with the principles of selection for promotion, and it is laid out in a long way with sub-paragraphs. In considering the eligibility of officers for promotion, the Commission shall take into account the seniority, experience, educational qualifications, merit and ability, together with relative efficiency of such officers. And then it goes on to say, in the performance of his functions under the different regulations, what you shall consider. You can also consider general fitness, special qualifications, etc. And there is a long list, a guideline, Margaret, people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for the Public Service Commission to follow. Now, I pause a bit to refer to an article written in, I think it is Searchlight, where Dr. Gonsalves is claiming as if for the first time he's knowing that these procedures are not being done. In fact, he's saying, I have always called, I am interpreting what the article said. I have always called for some redress in relation to how civil servants are promoted. I have called for it. That's what our Prime Minister is saying. And that there shouldn't be no friend-friend promotion. Well, if ever there was a hypocritical, disingenuous statement made by Dr. Gonsalves, it must be this. There's no need for him to call for there to be no friend. For there to be looking into setting up rules and regulations. If you read that article, you will think that there's no rules and regulations under the civil service as to how you should promote people. It is dishonest. It is hypocritical. You cannot keep, because I'm going to read further on, how does the Public Service Union get appointed? The Public Service Commission get appointed. How does it get appointed? By the same Dr. Gonsalves, by the Governor General, on the advice of Dr. Gonsalves, on the advice of the Prime Minister. And on his advice, he has kept a man there who has not followed the rules.
Constitution, you should say.
And when it is found out, you come on the radio and you blame the civil servants. And you go on another radio station and you try to excuse the sitting chairman. I've heard him saying that, oh, we can't remove the chairman because there's only under certain ways you can remove the chairman. Well, again, hypocrisy. He, first of all, said that, oh, they're appointed for 2 years by the Governor General, so you can't remove them. Oh, that may be so. But it took questions to find out that the current one has been appointed every 2 years ad nauseum from since 2001. And I will join the Public Service Commission and those the Public Union who would be calling for the removal of the current chairperson. And I would say even the whole of the Public Service Commission, because they have grossly failed to do what they should do. And when that happens, persons cannot complain if the civil servants have lost interest and I'm apathetic, because I've read for you the case where the judges accept that this is what happened when you overlook people, when you leapfrog persons who are not qualified over others who are qualified. How do you expect these persons to contribute? As far as I see, this Public Service Commission has led to the underdevelopment of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because we are facing all these problems in our civil service and the way they perform, because most of them are dissatisfied, disgruntled. And if they dare to speak out, you threaten. Threats are being meted out to them. So the provision that deals with removal of the setting up of the Public Service Commission is Section 77 of our Constitution. And that section says that there shall be a Public Service Commission for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, hereinafter in this section referred to as the Commission, which shall consist of a chairman appointed by the Governor General, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister. B, one member appointed by the Governor General, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister. And C, not less than one, nor more than 3 other members appointed by the Governor General, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister. And then it goes on to give a proviso that the Prime Minister shall consult with the Civil Service Association. You think our Prime Minister consults? He said before that consulting means picking up the phone and saying, hey, I'm going to do so I have consulted. And that's not what the Constitution envisioned.
No, but even so, I think the part with the consultation had to do with the opposition. But before...
this part says consult with the civil service. There is a provision. There is a provision that says consult with the leader of the opposition before tendering any advice to the Governor General. Okay? A person shall not be qualified to be appointed as a member if, and I would leave all of that out. But I want to discuss from subsection 5, because I think once again, our Prime Minister was cavalier. He got into the radio and he began by insulting, and Margaret, I'm going to digress a little bit because I know you would love this. I have an article here. I believe they were writing it for Ralph Gonsalves. It's called 25 Ways to Suppress the Truth, the Rules of Disinformation. I'll just read one and then I'll get back to the ways to remove the civil servants. Listen to this. One of the ways to suppress the truth and to spread disinformation is to sidetrack your opponents with name calling and ridicule. This is known as the primary attack, the messenger ploy. Though other methods qualify as variants of that approach, associate opponents with unpopular titles. Call them snatty face girl, picky head girl. Call them anti right wings. Call them terrorists, call them conspiracy buffs, radicals or racists or religious fanatics or deviants. Call them all sorts of names.
Just like how they refer to Bouchan when there's political activists.
I'm coming to that. That's another one. That this one sidetrack them with name calling. Which politician in St. Vincent and the Grenadines name call the members of the opposition and the opponents any more than Dr. Gonsalves.
And look what he was doing to Boucher, say that Boucher is a bad worker. Sidetrack.
So instead of dealing with the issue that you have a civil service not being run properly, with promotions not being given as they ought to be, which would lead to apathy, low productivity. Don't deal with that issue. And don't deal with the fact that you are the person who appoint the civil service board. More or less, it's you who do it. Don't deal with that fact. Sidetrack your opponents by name calling. Question their motives. Twist or amplify any fact which could be taken to imply that the opponent operates out of a hidden agenda, a hidden personal agenda. So you get the likes of Hans King, you know exactly, going on the radio and saying, oh, they are political activists. They are interested in seeing the government go. What is Hans King? Is he an independent person? Is he interested in seeing the government
stay? A political activist interested in having the government stay.
Exactly. But this is one of their motives. Question the motives. So you don't deal with the issue. And there are many others. There's like hit and run. In any public forum, make a brief attack on your opponent or the opponent position and then scamper off before an answer can be fielded. And there are many, many more. As I said, it's called 25 Ways to Suppress Truth, the rules of disinformation. And if I have time, I could go through some of them again. Invoke authority. Claim for yourself or associate yourself with authority. I know because I did it. Because I am the brightest person, you know. And present your arguments with enough jargon to illustrate you are one who knows. And simply say, it isn't so, without discussing the issues. There are many, many ways. But let me get back, dear listeners, to how you can remove persons from the Public Service Commission. It's subsection 5 of section 77 of the Public Service Commission. And listen, this is where we need to go. It makes no sense having a ruling as this ruling here from Justice Henry and then going back to business as usual under the same body who flouted and ignored the rules. It makes no sense. So then, if you want to get change, I am suggesting that these persons ought to be recalled. What does the Constitution say? It says a member of the Commission may be removed from office only for inability to exercise the functions of his office, whether arising from infirmity of body or mind or any other cause, or for misbehavior